this is one of these older books. Like it's probably, I think they put this out in the 80s or something like that. It's been around for a while, and 1992. It's more of that side of Chinese medicine explained. So the types of the personality types, and it does have quite a big section in the up front about what the 5 elements are, about our interaction between human beings and nature and things like that. So within this book, there's like some kind of like questionnaire type of thing where you can find out what your personality type is, your Chinese medicine elemental type. You can find out that through doing that questionnaire. Now, that's not the only way you can find it out, because what you'll find is especially if you're into personality types, like it takes several times of doing tests at different times, not several times a day or anything like that, but maybe different types of tests and understanding that. And it's also somewhat up to a practitioner to help to diagnose, like, if there's so what can happen with people is you have a type that you are, and then something happens in your life and you go out of balance, and so how you're acting and what you're responding to and the way you're responding to things in life is because of that imbalance that's happened, not because of like who you should be, right? And that can be very tricky for a lay person, like a person that doesn't have any, haven't gone to school about it. It can be very tricky for you to work it out yourself. So don't be discouraged if you're not sure. Another way of diagnosing yourself in the 5 elements is to think, well, we all have every part of an element within us, right? Like, even if you're a wood type or an earth type or a metal type, you're not just that type. You're actually all of those 5 elements. So when you read that book, when I was going through those personality types, you were probably listening thinking, oh, there's a little bit of that in me, but that's not really, that doesn't, float my boat type of thing. It's not like all of what I am. So there's some systems that rate you from sort of 1 to 5. So 5 would be like you're mostly wood, and then you might, the next one might be a bit of water, and then, down to the last one. When you practice a thing called alchemy, which is the thing I was talking about on this channel, I interviewed Lita Herman, and she, Leta, Lita, her name is, but I sometimes say Lita because that's how we do it in Australia. Sorry about that, I've mispronounced it again. Her interview was very good to intro people into that world, and something that they talk about is, transcending just being who you are as your main element, like becoming all of that you can be, but then just transcending that and becoming all those 5 elements. So the question here, and that's sort of to preempt the question, and I'll get to yours as well, Hey Meadow, as well. So I'm just going to have to turn if people have just tuned in because of the way I've set this up. I'm still working that out, what I'm going to do. I need to invest in a giant screen that goes behind my camera of sorts, so that I can just see people's comments and things big on the screen. I think that's what I'm going to have to do. But then I like to have stuff that you can pack up and pack down. I don't want to have like stuff set up all the time like this, but then I do, because then I can just jump into the studio. So that's essentially what I've set up in this room where I am now. This is my recording studio for music, and I was hoping to just create a live streaming studio. So I just kind of have to remind myself, because it's only when I do these streams that I'm like, wouldn't it be great if we had this? Wouldn't it be great if we had that here? So anyway, this question says, it's from Lick Lucky. It's a great name. I love these awesome YouTube names. People try to stay. That's good. Keep your anonymity online. I was born in the year of the wood. A lot of what you described shares my a lot of what you shared describes my personality. However, I notice a lot of imbalances lately is more earth qualities, such as overthinking, worrying, and digestive issues. Am I really considered wood since I'm born in the year of the wood, or more earth since I experience more qualities of earth when imbalanced? So just want to preface this with, I'm not a 5 element practitioner. That's not my expertise. I do know a lot about it, but I'm not like that's not all. I've only someone else might have a different answer, so please be open to that. So one is it's not to do with when you're born. It's nothing to do with you born in the year of the wood. So that you've got to set that aside. And when you might want to do the quiz that's in this book. Now, unfortunately, I think it was these guys, they had it on their website, this longevity centre, as a free quiz, and then it's just disappeared. Like, you can't get it anymore. So maybe they've put it behind a paywall, or as people do, or they've just gotten rid of it. It was a bit of annoying. So that's unfortunate. But that's just because you're born in the year of anything. I've just been listening to that song a lot. I'm just trying to think who it's by. I put it in my liked songs. Al Stewart, The Year of the Cat. Year of the Cat. Even if you're born in the year of the dog or whatever, a wood year, you're not a wood necessarily an element because of that. I don't think 5-element practitioners really consider that even. They think about who you are as a person. And look, there may be some correlation there, and it may be coincidental correlation there. So that's one thing. The second part to answer your question is every one of us has an earth element, right? We all have those earth qualities, and that's a central part of how we function. So if you treat your digestive system poorly, and I'm not saying that you have, but if you do, we're all going to experience those digestive issues, even if you're, a different elemental type of person. It's more that certain types of people might have a propensity to use those, to do those terrible dietary things to their body when they get out of balance, because they use that, like, for instance, eating comfort food and things like that might be part of that sort of an imbalanced earth pattern, perhaps. So every I think when you're out of balance, which might look, most of us get out of balance from time to time, it's hard. That's where it becomes hard to make your own diagnosis. And also to think of it this way, some practitioners get to the diagnosis, not just in 5-element practice, but in other practices. Like, I do this in herbs sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. Your diagnosis is confirmed by the treatment. So let's say you think it's, you think it could be A or B, and you're like, we'll give the A treatment, and that doesn't work. Well, then it must be B, if there was only 2 options that it could be. And so sometimes that happens with practitioners. They'll they might think a person's, especially if they score very highly for both two elements almost, right? So the ranking of those 2 elements is very close together. And yeah, so that's something. And I wouldn't think this is something that you need to get caught up on and thinking, I need to really change myself a huge amount for that element. You should be trying to change your habits and change yourself just for what Chinese medicine generally considers healthy, and then who you are as a person is then able to kind of shine out. And I think also the 5-element thing, the personality types, gives people something to think about. These are the detriments of my type, particularly personality-wise. Like, if I shouldn't just let myself become isolated, because I can do, and that's I need to borrow a little. Like, if you're a metal type of person or something, and you might think, I need to borrow a little bit of the fire or the earth and become a bit more friendly to people, or become a bit more seek out some relationships, because that's actually, it is a good thing, even though you might not really value it that much. And likewise, if you're an earth person and you're just over everybody's houses all the time and annoying them, then, knocking on their door and you're very needy for that connection all the time. Like, you're calling people, you can't be alone, and maybe you've become a needy partner type of thing. Well, it might be good for you to borrow some of these aspects from other elements, or seek out some of that, even though the seeking out of those things can be very uncomfortable for people. And you're still going to get a benefit of that. And I think that's one of the best ways to utilize knowing what your element is, because we all need every part of those 5 elements, and that's the aspect of kind of transcendence. So let me see if I can answer your question now. Hey Meadow, I believe I'm a wood person, and I can identify times in the past when I've been inflexible and stubborn, but I'm normally quite flexible in my approach. Yeah. So exactly, like I can relate to that because I'm a wood type as well. We're probably wood and metal, and it is hard. Like what you need to do there is realize, like, water nourishes wood. So sometimes you need some water things, like some stillness, because what can happen with wood is you get caught up on do, and also powering through. Like wood has this energy to it that lets you power through, I guess, and power on. And wood types are probably the most types to kind of do a lot of stuff, and that actually energizes you, and that's part of understanding your type 2, I think, because I was looked upon by other types of people, and they were like, oh, you're doing too much, Marie, oh, you need to have a rest. And I was like, what's a rest? Like, what do you mean a rest? Like, now you do need to have a rest. You can't just keep going all the time. And I think also what happens is as you change, as you go through life, you change, right? We all change, we get mature, hopefully. We learn from our mistakes, and we get better. So that might influence how you're acting and what's happening. So please feel free to ask questions or have a chat in the chat. If there's something you'd like to ask or talk about, they're good. That's all good. So I wanted to just answer that question, and if you've just tuned in and you didn't see that book, the one I sort of recommend to know about those types is that one there. And that's something good. Now the other one I want to talk about today, sorry, I'll do that in the microphone. The other one I wanted to talk about today was this book here, off my shelf, called Aromatherapy and the Spirit. Let me just put that in front there so you can kind of see it. Hopefully. There we go. Okay, so this book, I just happened to come across this through a friend because I was looking for a book about the 5 elements and the Chinese medicine approach of essential oils. And that's what they should have called this book because the title doesn't really tell you what's in the book. I've got a lot of little notes popping out of this, but it talks about wood, fire, earth, metal, water, like the different spiritual aspects of the elements, and then oils that can go with those, or types, sorry. And then it goes through different oils. Now, not every essential oil's in there, but say, for instance, here's frankincense. I was using frankincense today in the room. I love frankincense, actually. It's one of the loveliest essential oils that I've ever come across. And I'm sure that you have, if you're into frankincense, you would know there's lots of healing properties that it's known for as well. And so it talks about what it might do in Chinese medicine, and some of this stuff we can infer from what the herbs do. So frankincense, rushang, is used in herbal medicine as a herb, right? It's used as a blood-moving herb, so moving stagnation and stopping pain and things like that. So the essential oil can kind of have some of those properties, especially if it's made out of the same part of the plant, which that's what frankincense is the resin. So that's one way, but the other things are just like inferred things. So, like for instance, grapefruit. Here's grapefruit. Thinking about a friend's told me a story about pink grapefruit, but we won't talk about that. So grapefruit is like a citrus fragrance that kind of uplifts and moves. So that uplifting nature actually is similar to all citruses, so orange and things like that. And so you could think about, like in Chinese medicine, what's chen pi, which is the peel, like, or qing pi, which is like immature orange peel, and then chen pi, which is like tangerine or mandarin peel, and it's the fragrant aspect of those things that have this uplifting and this chi moving aspect. So they really have a big wood aspect, yeah. So something really, I'm not sure if people want to know this stuff about, do people want to know more about essential oils and mixing them and stuff like that? And that wasn't, I should have called the stream that, but I can talk about that if people want to know about that. One of the things that you do with essential oils often is you balance the oils by what we think of like notes. So, notes in a chord, you have the bass note, like the big daddy note, right? That's kind of grounding it. And that's like anchoring. So it's very pleasant to kind of listen to a chord because the contrast of those sounds like makes that individual sound better. So if you just had the high note, and you just like only listen to like it's beautiful note, let's say, but it will become annoying. And same with the like the drone is just, maybe just the bass is just annoying by itself. Bass players probably would say it's not it's not annoying by itself. Hopefully what's that guy, Davey 50 doesn't listen to Chinese medicine podcast. But the bass note of a fragrance is kind of like that, yeah. So your bass notes, the fragrances have these notes, right? You have bass notes, middle notes, and high notes or top notes. And that's how beautiful perfumes are created, because you get the base note of a fragrance like lingers and sticks. It actually sticks into the fabric. And that's, when you wash clothes, even though you've washed them and you put them up and you smell them, you can still smell some of that fragrance there lingering. That they are typically made out of base notes. So things like frankincense, vetiver, what else? Like myrrh is a good one. A lot of sandalwood. So you can think about in terms of like the doctrine of signatures, like how things look and what they are. So heavier things that are made out of those resins and those heavier things like wood tend to have a base notey sort of thing. And then you have things that are citrus, which are the top notes usually, and some florals are top notes as well. But the top notes kind of have this really uplifting, and because we're on Chinese medicine podcast today, we're talking about Chinese medicine, then we want to think about what they do in Chinese medicine. So that those uplifting things very much have a wood moving effect, whereas the base notes tend to have a grounding effect. So almost like you could think of that wood and water kind of aspect of this sort of, we're like providing an anchor, or the yin and the yang, right? This yin anchor, or this dense yin kind of type of thing that then helps the yang to be pulled into it, the yang anchored it into it. So the more yang kind of notes, which would be the top notes, they could just float away so easily. It's like, when someone sprays a perfume on themselves and they're just like, it's so strong, and it's like, boo, I've come into the room. But then it just kind of dissipates away. The smell goes away very quickly, and they like constantly have to spray this stuff on themselves all the time. So that would be the way that we kind of think of notes in perfumes. And then you have your middle notes, which are obviously somewhere in the middle there, and you could have like things like lavender would be sort of something that would be in the middle. So there's like a little bit of that uplifting, but there's a bit of a yin side of it kind of too. That's one way to think about essential oil. So when you're mixing in an oil, you want to have, if you can have a bit of both. Like, so if you really want that grounding nature of an oil, you want the lots of like base notes in it. But if you just have base notes, it will be sedative, right? Now, science fall down. That didn't take long. The studio's fallen apart. Anyway, I'll answer these other questions that people have about actual things, not just theoretical essential oils. But that's something you can think about if you're mixing essential oils together to kind of make a nice. So if you really want a balanced thing, we'll think about what you want to do. Like, so let's say you have let's say you want to get work done, you want that productivity, so you want to use more wood and yang type of scents. Well, if you just put a tiny bit of a base note in, it'll kind of help balance that scent out and like let it ground into the, like actually let it linger longer in the thing. So if you're making candles or things like that, that's how you can think about it. And what's great with essential oils is you can drop them into your oil burner and you can like experiment with how they smell, you know, in a tiny little experimental thing. You know, you're not mixing a whole big giant thing that then you're like, oh, I didn't like this smell, that's terrible. Anyway, so that's one thing to think about. There's lots of things we could talk about oils. Okay, so Anzar. So firstly, Nashia Anzar, another Anzar, but with the surname. It says which essential oil brand is good, which is myrrh and frankincense. Which essential oil brand is good? Which I think they meant like for myrrh and frankincense. What essential oil brand would you recommend? Not really any brand. Like I don't. One is I'm in Australia, and I'm sure the brands you have in your country will be different to the brands that my country have. So that's one thing. Yeah, I don't know. I use my own ones. Like I buy them from wholesalers, and I mix them into. I use them for my essential oil making thing. So I make soy melts and which is like a kind of a candle thing, and I use the essential oils myself in an incense that I make. So I make a 5-element incense, and I do that for the different elements. So in that product we only use essential oils. So I just buy them. I buy them from a wholesaler that I know the guy who runs the wholesale company, and he's a chemist, and he kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's a reputable company. Essential oils can vary from season to season, right? Like you might have a company that sells a certain kind of frankincense, and then the next year the level of the quality is different, and also the price can be very, very different. So it depends what you're using it for. I wouldn't go and buy really super expensive things if you're just going to use them for only smell, and you know, it's kind of wasting the environment on those. It's happened again. Those expensive things. It's the other side this time though, so we'll give it one more try, and then if that happens again, we'll have to just take it down. Yep. I know people are laughing about it. You can see that in the comments. All right, so we've got some questions here, proper questions. So Anza says, hi, I've got liver yang rising, cold feet, and a hot face and a head. I've used many formulas with a practitioner like Liu Wei Difeng 1 and I think it means Shui Fu Ju Tang to reduce heat and move blood to the scalp. I've got alopecia. Any suggestions? My practitioner's methods haven't worked as much. So it says my symptoms flare so much once or reduce. My symptoms flare so much once or reduced, I feel like there's no permanent increase in health. Yep. So it has light periods and yin deficiency. So firstly, I just preface this with the thing I always say, I can't give out individual health advice and give you theoretical advice about how Chinese medicine sees that condition, but I'm not your practitioner, so please take this with that caveat there. So there are two systems, very broad systems in Chinese medicine: classical Chinese medicine and traditional Chinese medicine. So the system you're using is traditional Chinese medicine. There's nothing wrong with traditional Chinese medicine. It contains aspects of classical Chinese medicine, but this is one thing where I have noticed a difference in how we see how a condition like this happens, and there is a different way of approaching how to treat it, and I'll talk about that. So when you've got both systems think about the yang rising, right? So for instance, when, like exactly what I was talking about with the essential oils, right? The yin grounds the yang, like it's like the night provides a rest so that the day can be born, right? If it was day all the time, if it was yang all the time, you would just, it would be unbearable. You would never get that rest. So you need that interchanging of like yin and yang, and your body needs almost like a sea of blood or a resting of yin for that yang to kind of come in and rest in that. And what happens is when we age, or so it can happen from like an instantaneous thing as well, like from a big amount of stress or something like that, is that our yang gets weaker, and as that happens, it tends to float. Now, why do some people get alopecia, and some people get insomnia, and some people get headaches or other things from that yang rising? You know, that's probably, you know, based on your genetics and all these other things that, but in a very simple thing, one way of thinking about that is it's yang floating to the head, right? So that yang, when that yang goes to the head and it floats, it heats it up so much that the hair just comes out. Like the hair just literally falls out. And it can't, it's almost like the follicles can't contain the hair because of all that heat that's kind of there. Now, what is that heat? Is it external heat from the environment? No, it's your body's own yang. So the way that TCM's treating it for this, the way that he or she has said they've used the herbs formulas they've used. Now, there's nothing wrong with these formulas. They're very common formulas to be used in TCM, but it's a different way of thinking about it. So they're basically saying we're going to nourish the yin, like as in tonify the yin, to say, hey, yang, come back into the yin. That's one way of doing it. That's what Liu Wei Di Huang one does, right? So the herbs in there are like blood tonic-y and yin tonic-y kind of herbs. So very bland flavored, gluggy type of, enriching the yin. That's how Chinese medicine thinks of it. I don't really use that. Well, I don't use that formula. I haven't used that formula for like 4 years now. Like, yay. All my classical friends will be proud of me. But anyway, probably 5 years I haven't used that formula. So the way classical Chinese medicine sees it is that we want to tonify your yang and make your yang strong so that your yang goes, hang on a minute, I shouldn't be here, I should actually be lower down and I should just be rooted, right? That sounds a bit crass, but that's what we say, like strong yang can be rooted. And rooted means it comes down. If you've ever practiced Tai Chi or Qigong or something, they talk about the Dantian, this kind of lower jiao area. You could think of it like that. You could think about this strong yang's going to kind of go in its place. It's like, I know where I belong and I'm going to be strong and be powerful where I belong, not wasting all my energy up here in your head, making your hair kind of fall out. So the Shui Fu Juyu tongue, I used to use that formula a lot, like bang away with that formula for a lot, and it's very good for pain and moving blood, and that's exactly what it does. It kind of moves blood, and like it's kind of invigorating blood, like moving blood stasis. So there's just a different way of looking at things. Like, to be honest, I'm not it's hard for me to get on this channel, and I don't want to poo-poo Chinese medicine because I love Chinese medicine, but the way that I have come about learning classical Chinese medicine makes a lot more sense to me now. And so it's just a different way of doing it. So what would we use? We would use a lot more different hotter kind of herbs. And you might need a harmonizing formula first. So please, I'm not saying take these formulas. I'm just saying this is what a practitioner may do, and it would all be based on your pulse. So if you want to see a practitioner that does all this, you can send me an email and I'll reply to you. I'll give you my new one, because I've got so many emails, but what happens is I can't see all the messages. Hopefully this one doesn't get spammed out. If I put it here, it might. But this is my email for my courses, so you can send me an email there, learn@metrohealth.com.au, and just tell me that you were on the thing, and I'll send you, and you'll have to tell me what area you live in, if you're in the US or the UK or whatever. There's lots of practitioners in ICEAM. That's who I'd refer you to, that do this. And so that'd be like a second opinion within Chinese medicine. So if you've already gotten this far and you've gone like, okay, I've committed to all of this stuff, and so you probably do have. So in TCM, they'd say you have yin deficiency. In classical Chinese medicine, they'd probably say you have kind of maybe some kind of blood deficiency. And how we would treat that is like warming the blood, possibly, depending on what symptoms are. So if you had very cold hands, like freezing cold hands, then there's an aspect of kind of warming the blood. If it wasn't that, then it might be just nourishing the blood. It still would be warming, but not as warming. So it's just a different way of approaching it. And so there's another option for you. There's a second opinion kind of option. I do online consultations for people as well. I would prefer for people to see a practitioner that they can see face to face, if that's possible, especially if you can find a classical practitioner. But I have seen heaps of people online now, and posted herbs over to different countries and things like that. So I'm happy to do that if that's what people want, or they want a second opinion to kind of talk through maybe diet therapy options for their condition as well. And that way we can kind of have a more private chat about what's going on. So hopefully I haven't missed too many things I'm just going to scroll through the chat. Just move this over a tiny bit. So hopefully that's useful information. So Nashia says, is this the same phenomenon of hair falling out because of floating yang and PCOS? Yeah, exactly, right. So, it doesn't really matter what the mechanism of action is the same. Now, the treating that floating yang can be different. It's not like, oh, whoopie-doo, we've got one formula that does it. Otherwise, I'd be a millionaire. We could just give that to everybody. Because essentially, everyone is going to have some kind of floating yang. That's what aging is, right? But why does it affect people in these different ways? Well, one is it's constitutional, right? So we were just at the start of the stream, we were talking about personality types and different things like that. Your genetics, things that you do to your body, right? They do affect us. And as in our diet and our lifestyle and our sleep and the things we've been through, the traumas that we've had and things like that. Blood deficiency can kind of have many different manifestations. So PCOS is one of those kind of sort of manifestations. But certainly when people get very stressed, their yang just typically floats up. So this would happen, if you go through a period of extreme pressure and stress, your hair can start to fall out, and you get massive chunks of hair can sometimes fall out for people. They're brushing their hair and they're like, wow. Now that can take up to 3 months from when the stress has stopped for the hair to stop falling out. That's what hairdressers will tell you, right? And so you're using all these products and things like that to keep your hair in, but it's really about letting that yang be anchored. Now, one of the things that really makes that worse is alcohol. It's a big worsening factor. So alcohol rises your yang naturally. That's what it does. And so sometimes it's a combination of what happens is, you go through a stressful time and you're like, oh, let me get on the piss because that'll make me feel a bit better, or however you say it in your country, get on the boozer, as in have some alcohol. And if you start doing that regularly, then you're just promoting this yang to be floating, and then it has a flow-on effect where people might not have as good sleep as they could, and that's what essentially nourishes you. So naturally, if you really want to be natural, you wouldn't be using any medicine, right? Proper natural medicine is no medicine. It's just letting your body do its job, right? Really. And so if you really want to let your body do its job, you've got to get your sleep right. And that's the first thing. You want to make sure your sleep's good. Now, it's sometimes hard or almost impossible for people to do that by themselves. They've gotten to such a point where their sleep can't be rectified without, I'm not saying taking sleeping tablets, but without some kind of treatment process. So that's kind of how that's the mechanism of action for that alopecia kind of situation. And so, if you see a classical herbalist, there's another arsenal of all these different kinds of herbs. So we would use very warm herbs that make the yang go down, but also minerals that make the yang go down. So minerals like longu and moly, these are oyster shells. Longu is like a fossilized bone. And those two herbs are usually used in quite large doses. And it's literally like a sandbag, putting the sandbag on so that the hot air balloon stops floating away, right? It's putting that, it's so that is a yin, they are yin type of herbs because they're dense, but they're literally dense minerals. So classical Chinese medicine uses a lot more of that approach rather than the type of yin tonics that TCM uses. And yeah, I mean, once I started learning classical Chinese medicine, I was like, wow, this just makes so much sense. Why wouldn't Chinese medicine, TCM, use this? And I don't know the exact answer, but there's lots of reasons, but it's just kind of drifted away from its roots, and it's classical Chinese medicine is Han Dynasty medicine, right? The original Chinese medicine. So that's what it is. All right, let me answer some of these other questions. So Christina says, I have a lot going on. Any advice on anything is appreciated. Any advice on anything? That's very broad, isn't it? I'm glad you put some caveat there. I need to gain weight, struggle with insomnia, stomach pain, acne, tooth issues, probably bone or joint too. Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of symptoms there. Again, I'm not giving out individual advice. This is in general. Sleep is a really important place to start, and digestion is an important place to start. So those are the two pillars of health. And a saying that we have in Chinese medicine is the more complicated the disease, the more complicated the patient, the more simpler the treatment should be. So unfortunately, this is how TCM has kind of evolved along. I don't know if you've ever gone to China and had a formula prescribed by a person in China these days, but sometimes the page could be an A4 sheet of paper with 50 herbs in it in one prescription. It's like crazy. Like that's batshit crazy, right? There's so many herbs. It's like what kind of message are you giving the body with all of these things? So I'm not suggesting you stop doing anything. Please consult your own practitioner before you start any new thing or oh, here we go. Lost the video. Not sure what's happening here, but the audio is still there, so please stick with me. It'll be back in a second. Just gotta. It's gonna be coming back. I'm still here. Not sure what's happened there. Just trying to fix it. Get it going again. Yep. Still here. Yeah. Something has happened to my thing. So yeah, something's happened to my cord there, as in it's just not picking up the camera. But I will be. Please don't leave the stream because I'm fixing it, and I will answer this question. Might have to get another cord. So it's all I think I thought it might be. Alright, yes, getting another cord, maybe. That's what I have to do. Sorry about that, technical issues. Just talk amongst yourselves. I bought a new cord for this camera and I'm going to have to throw it in the bin because I don't think this is good. Got the old faithful coming back. Wow, it does not like something. It does not like something. Wow, sorry about this. Yeah, very annoying. Super annoying. Right, well, what can we do here? Yeah, I hope it's not my camera breaking down. The camera's working over here still. It's very strange. It just isn't doing that. All right. So sorry about this. I'm not sure what to do here. Try the old cord back again. The old new one. Let's see if that works. I might just have to stop and start, but I'm not sure if this is going to stop the stream. So if it does, I'll just start up a new stream and I'll come back to your questions. Sorry about this. Yeah. Just trying to fix it. I don't know what else to do. Yeah. I have no idea why it's done this. I've used this camera many times for this kind of thing, and it's just decided it doesn't want to be used today. Going to try one more time. Put the cord in again. All right, I don't think that's going to be working. Sorry, guys. But what we might do is I will just have to answer some of these questions on a video. So I will come back to the questions that people have asked. I don't know why I'm still talking into the camera. You can't see me. But yeah, I'm so sorry about this. Goodness knows what's happened. And I'm better at Chinese medicine than I am at technology. So yeah, well, what we'll do is I'll answer these questions on the next time either on another stream or in a video, and so we can kind of do that. So because we've still got someone's asking Dangwei. Oh, Anza was asking Dangwei Yin Zhuan was currently suggested to me. I'm not really sure about that formula. I wish this would just bloody work. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. I guess I could. Yeah, I don't think I could organise my phone to be the camera at this stage. I don't know how to do that either. Yeah. So the Dangwei Yinza one, we could just do this as an audio, I guess. No one needs to see me. Yeah, so I'm just going through some of these comments. Here, I'll just have to look that formula up because I'm not sure of it. Dangwei Yinza one. It says it's a formula to alleviate skin itching. Just looking for the herbs in there. Yeah. I mean, this is just a typical kind of TCM approach to something where you've got some blood tonic herbs and they're very and then you've got some herbs that would just help to I wouldn't use this formula. I mean that, but I'm not. It's hard because I'm not your practitioner, and your practitioner's probably got a good reason for using it. And if I was doing TCM, I probably would consider that formula, but because I'm not doing it, I wouldn't use it. It's just a different way of thinking about things. So someone also asked about spleen is what's for digestion. What is the stomach and spleen the best to start with? So the clear bland diet. Go and look at the video that I made about why eat mostly cooked foods. That's a really important one. So that kind of situation's gonna I wonder if something fried the output of this camera. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know, because why would 2 cords not work in it suddenly? Anyway, I'm trying to diagnose my camera problem more than the questions here. So, yeah, look at the video I made about why I eat mostly cooked foods, and that kind of talks about, well, if you've got any general problem, if you give your body less work to do, that's generally what you're the approach that you're taking. And a lot of people have got cottoned onto this in a Western sense of just intermittent fasting. I was listening to someone, I can't even remember who it was. I think it was on a Joe Rogan podcast, but I have no idea who was saying it because I listen to so many of those things. And they were talking about just like if you just give your body less work to do, then it functions better. And that's what they were noticing about doing their diet. Oh, I think it was Bill Maher or something. And it just, that's the Chinese medicine approach of things, right? Like give your body a rest and give it times to digest. Like it likes to be full and empty, not kind of grazing all day long, and not just working like a workhorse, which is what people are putting their body through when they eat all night long, or they overeat regularly, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's probably, I'm going to probably just end the stream here, I think, because I don't think I can get this audio to work properly. All right. Thanks, everyone. yeah, as in I can't get this video to work properly, so thank you for sticking around. I can see there's still 5 people here. I'm so sorry about this, and if I've missed any questions, I'll go back and answer them on the I'll just give this one more try. I don't know what. Sometimes you have to restart your computer, and obviously I can't do that when I'm part way through this stream, because it's just cracked the sad. All right, thank you everyone. Thank you for your patience, and yeah, I'll see you again on another video soon. If you click the link at the top of the stream, I put a link for the courses that I'm doing for 2022, and I've just opened up a new one, which is an on-demand version of the foundational concepts of Chinese medicine. So you can start that straight away. You can enroll in that, and you'll get step-by-step guide, and you'll also get 2 free sessions included with the course, one-on-one with me, to kind of discuss things about the course. So I hope that's useful and helpful, and I'll see you again on another, hopefully, video soon. Thank you so much for sticking around. Okay, bye.